Welcome to Matinee Heroes Presents CastOFF. I am your host, Craig Price, and this is your favorite recasting show, and hopefully I'm your favorite recasting host. We've got a great show for you for this afternoon. I've got new headphones. They're already echoing in my head, so this ought to be a fun show where I have no idea what the hell's going on. But let's talk about what happened last week. Last week, the Veterans Bracket showcased rivals Tracy Mangum and Steve Condrick, and as you can see, Tracy shellacked Steve. And he will now move on to the second round to face Randy Redacted sometime in January. What we learned from last episode is watching the movie is a huge advantage to winning. Maybe not for Randy, but it did for Steve. Steve didn't watch the movie. He asked around and got crushed. But we've got two people I know watched this movie because they talked about it and they posted about it, and I saw when they were doing it. It was so great to see. So we've got some new players for you in the newbie bracket. In this corner, from the Over and Under Artist Exposed, Chaz Evans, and from the Clubhouse Podcast, Jenn Rohm. How are you guys, and welcome to the show. As my machine slowly pushes you over. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Okay. Good. Super shy, apparently. You guys are newbies. I don't want to talk. Oh, this is going to be a long game. We've got 7 people to go. Let's start with Chaz. Chaz, you have the high seed. Explain to me what you're doing over there at the Over and Under. I've never heard of it.
It's just a podcast where I talk with artists about the highs and lows of pursuing art as a passion, and it's just kind of getting to know them more as people rather than what the craft might present them to be.
So what kind of artists are we talking about? Musical artists, visual media, anything?
Anything. The core of this show is kind of show how all artists kind of like are relatable in a sense, like they can kind of relate to each other, and it doesn't matter what the medium is because they're all going to face like the hardships at one point or another. So it's just kind of to connect all that together.
Wow, it sounds like this is the only podcast I know that needs therapy afterwards, as they talk about their hardships. That sounds great, though, because the artists are amazing, and they've got a great festival up in Park City. Well, at least when quarantine is not around.
Yeah.
Well, we go from one COVID hotspot to another down in Texas. Jen, how are you?
I am doing well. It's been a interesting pandemic, and I'm ready for the holiday.
I think we're all ready for the holidays. You are part of the Clubhouse Podcast. I've been on there a couple times. It's kind of a wild show because it's like a boulder rolling downhill. Once it starts, you just go, and you got to fight your way in through topics. It's just coming at you 100 miles an hour.
It's sports, entertainment, and pop culture. And we did separate out the wrestling intensive, but we do talk wrestling. I do watch wrestling. I do subscribe to WWE channel. I've learned a lot, and they're a group of great guys. I'm the female. They call me the lady of the house, and I wear that title proudly.
Well, and you should. You bring some civility to those two, to both Rob and Alex. All are part of the podcast. Huh?
And
Don. You know what?
He's not
Don,
here with CastOFF, but he's part of us.
I was going to say Don wasn't there last time, so I forgot. It was just the 3 of us. And yeah, all 3 of you are competing, and you are the first of, I think it's 3 weeks in a row. I think it's you, and then Rob, and then Alex. And so we could either all have a big, huge Clubhouse Podcast a fight, or you could all be gone like that.
Yeah, I won't confirm or deny that there may be some side betting going on.
If Alex is involved, there's side bets going on. Well, let's move on to the rules, which are fairly simple. I'm going to name an actor. You're going to give me the best choice for that actor. Is going to get a point. Then if someone has picked, because I will choose as well, if someone has picked the same as me, they get a bonus point. Now, the best choice and the secret selection don't always have to be the same thing. Sometimes we will sync up on the secret selection, but because there's multiple judges, sometimes the best choice is not mine. Rarely is that true, but this is a good way for you to if you listen to me, get to know me, you'll know some of the tricks. Though I have put a ban on Charlize Theron because everyone knows I will pick her for everything. Obviously, the person with the most points win. If for some reason there's a tie, I will then ask you for a double feature. Will be more rules down the road if that happens, but a double feature to win, just like on the show. And today's additional judges is longtime guest and oftentimes just my side co-host, Brendan Agnew, and past guest and past cast-off participant, Derek McCaw from Fanboy Planet. So this week, Devin Pike is on to talk about the Manchurian Candidate. And you can go to matineeheroes.com, subscribe to the podcast, and listen to Devin and I talk about the Manchurian Candidate, and also talk about Who Needs Sleep, something that Jen is a part of and Rob is a part of, the telethon to raise money for cancer. So we'll talk about that in depth probably next week as well when Rob comes on the show.
And for an outsider, I've got to say, when you and Devin get together, it's always a good Matinee Heroes. I always enjoy those when it's the two of you.
Well, Devin and I have a bromance going on, and we really like each other, and we don't get to see each other very often, so he's always very good. He's super smart, and he's got a beautiful voice that offsets my whining. So if you, while you're at Matinee Heroes subscribing to the podcast, you can go to matineeheroes.com/castoff and subscribe to the video feed. We are only about 76 people away from getting a custom URL, so we really need to work on that, because right now I couldn't tell you how to get to the YouTube channel. That's why you go to matineeheroes.com/castoff, and it'll be there in links all over the place. So are you guys ready to play?
Yeah.
We are watching The Watchmen, or Alex, you watched The Watchmen. I've seen it before. I didn't really want to have to watch it again, but we're going to start off with Chaz. So Chaz, our first person is going to be the Silk Spectre, which was played by, and I have a hard time saying her name, Malin Arkerman? Is it Malin?
Something like that.
Malin? I don't know. Who do you have playing basically the lead character of Laurie Jupiter, the Silk Spectre 2?
Well, I kind of wanted to go for somebody who I've seen have like a strong female presence in movies, because I feel like that character in the movie itself was kind of like washed over a lot, kind of like stepped over. So I went with somebody who I kind of admire, and I chose Emily Blunt.
Oh, yeah, she's great. The thing I love about Emily Blunt, she was just announced she was the most profane actress in cinema.
Profane?
She swears more than anybody else in movies, and you got to love that. I call her the Swiss Army actress because, like you said, I admire her very much. I think she's great in everything. Looper, Edge of Tomorrow, but then she can do things like The Quiet Place or Devil Wears Prada. No, she's really good.
Yeah,
so,
the movie I was thinking of was Sicario.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, she was great in that too. There's very little she can not do. She's going to be in the new Jungle Book movie. Jungle Cruise, sorry. Jungle Cruise. Jungle Book actually has a plot. Jungle Cruise is just a ride that they... So I'm looking forward to seeing her and The Rock travel through the water on a boat where she can kick some butt.
Absolutely.
Jen, Emily Blunt is a pretty strong opening statement. Who do you have?
It is. I have to admit, this was all about the hair. There was something about the bangs, and I went with a Jennifer Lawrence.
She bangs. She bangs.
Well, but she has that bang sometimes, like the character, and I kept thinking it was Jennifer Lawrence instead of the other actress, and I'm like, I gotta go with it.
And I think she can do all the action. We've seen her in the Hunger Games movies and X-Men movies, so we know that she can do the action. And then in Winter's Bone and Silver Linings Playbook, we know she can do the acting, which, as much as people really enjoy Malin, I don't find her the best actress I've ever seen. So let's take a look. The judges looked at Emily Blunt for Chaz, Jennifer Lawrence for Jen. I was looking for like an Elle Fanning type, because I thought she was great in that Russian show that was on Hulu. She played Catherine the Great, and she was really good in that. The judges decided Jennifer, because you named someone after yourself, you get a point.
Easy. I had to go for the name.
Yeah, but Jennifer Lawrence is really good. And that was a tough one because both those ladies are spectacular. Now we get to the most famous penis in cinema. This one was talked about for like a year, it felt like. This is Billy Crudup as John Osterman / Dr. Manhattan. And let's start with Jen. You had an interesting take on this character. Who do you have playing Dr. Manhattan?
I went completely by the voice because of all the stuff they do with the character. You know, it's a lot of CGI. So I didn't go so much for a look as a voice. And I'm kind of continuing a name thing here. I went with Lawrence Fishbourne.
So you're playing like a chain gang where the next one is going to be someone named Fish
that way.
or
I
Born.
didn't do it on purpose. It worked that way.
Well, he'd be great, especially as the voice, as a soulful sounding badass, I call him. He's got that beautiful voice.
And he sounds intelligent and higher thinking.
Absolutely. We talked about him on The Matrix and Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, so you can head over to matineeheroes.com and go through the archives and look up The Matrix. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang is part of our Patreon, so if you want to go to patreon.com/matineeheroes and join up for $5 a month, you can listen to the back catalog. But he'd also look bald. You shave him down. He's got that nice smooth, Morpheus head. He'd look great. I mean, I don't know what he looks like completely naked, but I'm sure we can ask Gina Torres. She knows. Now we go to Chaz. Chaz, you are down a point. Who do you have to go up against Lawrence Fishbourne?
Well, I kind of wanted to go with a actor that kind of is newer-ish, that I know of at least. And he has like a smooth talking voice too, so I don't know if he's not as muscular, but as Jen said, I was kind of thinking they're going to CGI him anyways, because I don't think Billy Crudup is even
no Billy Crudup.
So. I went with Anthony Kerrigan, I think is how you say his last name. I'm not sure.
Now you are a perfect example of why I ask people to send me everything in advance. So because when I had no idea who this guy was until I saw his face, and he's the go-to TV bald guy right now. I loved him as the Russian mafia guy in Barry.
Exactly, yeah.
He plays Zaz. He's got like 7 different Z's in his name in Gotham. I haven't seen him in much, but he's definitely a fresh face. We'll see if that works in or against your favor as we go to the board. So Jennifer Lawrence Fishbourne, Anthony Kerrigan. I went out of the blue. I went exact opposite. Since I knew Dr. Manhattan was going to be CGI'd, it didn't matter who that was. I wanted someone who looked like a smart professor. And John Cho from the Star Trek, he's fantastic. So I thought he just looks smart. And he's also from Kumar and Harold. The judges talked again, and they said, you know what? We're going to have to keep the chain going. Jennifer Lawrence leads into Lawrence Fishbourne. If she can get Fishbourne in the next one, we're going to give her a point no matter what. Fisher Stevens. There you go. If Fisher Stevens is next, we're going to have some problems. So now we move on to Ozymandias, played by Matthew Good, or Adrian Veidt. So, Chaz, who do you have playing the main bad guy?
Well, so I thought the actor in, what was his name? Matthew Good.
Yes.
I thought he kind of looked kind of wimpy for a bad villain. And so I kind of went with somebody who has played a villain before, but I think he has a very strong presence in his villainous roles. So I went with Michael Fassbender.
Ah, yes. He has played a villain. I remember him in his villainous role as Steve Jobs. He's really good because he's got that look. He can just stare at you and you can feel the anger, the hate, and all the angst. I think Ozymandias doesn't have to be a big badass because he's all a brain, but it helps to have a Fassbender body to go with it. So Jen, let's move on to you. Who would you have playing Ozymandias?
I also went with someone who we are familiar with as a villain. Kind of wanted to see in more of a grown-up role from what we're used to. So I went with Tom Felton.
Tom Felton. This now I have to apologize for. I don't really know if his top of his head is this naturally big. It's just the picture I've got. Very bulbous. But Tom Felton is known for being whiny punks, as he was in the Harry Potter movies, as he was as the rescue keeper in Rise of the Planet of the Apes. He kind of started off as a little punk in The Flash, but they redeemed him later on. And then I found out he was in Anna and the King with Jodie Foster, and that he must have been like 6 when that came out.
And he's got kind of a similar look, I admit, but he can do that kind of pretty boy, but maybe not quite as pretty, which kind of leads to the villainy.
Okay, so he's got friend zone looks. He's pretty, but he's not that pretty. We're going to stick him in the friend zone. Michael Fassbender, Tom Felton. I was looking kind of like a Richard Madden from Game of Thrones. You blonde him up, and he's got that look like Fassbender's got, which is why Fassbender gets the point. The judges went with Michael Fassbender to make Chaz. You now on the board. How do you feel?
Yay. I feel great.
Yay. Insert loud applause here. Yay. All right. Now we move on to Rorschach, played by Jackie Earle Haley, who Alan and I got to meet when he came to Comicpalooza. He is a sweetheart of a guy, super nice, yet he plays all these vile, evil people, except for when he played in Bad News Bears, where he was wonderful. But Jackie Earle Haley did a great job as Rorschach. He's got the voice. We're going to move on to Jen. Who do you have playing the guy who's going to have his face covered the entire movie? If anything, he just comes up above his nose.
Well, no, we do see his face a few times, but with me, again, it was a voice thing, even though the body had to fit too. And I went with one James Franco.
Ooh, James Franco. Now, James Franco, he is what we call a Renaissance guy because he's got like 15 degrees in art, and he teaches at the NYU, and he does all kinds of stuff. But, he was the brains behind The Disaster Artist.
Yes.
And he can do pretty much anything. I tried to find I hadn't rewatched the movie, so I didn't realize, I forgot that we saw more of his face. I thought we didn't see very much of his face because I was like, well, James Franco might be a pretty boy. But no,
towards
he's got
the
the
end,
looks.
we see his face, and the character, and when he's in jail, we see his face when they've arrested him. It wasn't so much a look with it, but he's still got the body of, he could take some hits and he could dish some hits.
Yeah, and he's got I think Franco can have that disposition, too, of kind of hating the world and thinking the world's going to be crap. Mm-hmm. The more I think about it, the more I think Rorschach's like me. That's not good. Let's move on to Chaz before I have an existential crisis.
In the right place, so,
Well, my heart is in the right place where everybody else has. It's in the middle of my chest. But other than that, it's not. I don't know if it's... So, Chaz, who do you have playing the borderline psychotic?
Well, so as you mentioned, his mask is like mostly like when we do see it or throughout the movie, it's kind of like his mouth only, and I'm like, I kind of want like a rugged face to that to put to like such a cynical attitude, and so I chose Michael Shannon.
Michael Shannon, that's good because he's known for being scary crazy. When he goes crazy in a way like when Shape of Water, he's freaky. When he played General Zod, he's not a fun General Zod at all. And of course, we remember him from the wedding scene in Groundhog Day. Did you know that? Did you know that was him? I always throw in a little out of the way one. He had to be like 22 years old, and to see him, it's just goofy. All right. So we have James Franco versus Michael Shannon. I said it's going to be mostly voice. Let's do Andy Serkis because I know he'd get the voice down and he'd do all the physicality. We don't really need a face for this. And the judges went with Michael Shannon. So Chaz has crawled back to tie. All right.
Ooh.
Now we get to Night Owl 2, played by our favorite milquetoast cuck, Patrick Wilson. When Alan and I ever need a guy that has no backbone, who is going to get beaten up by people, worked over by women, just has no own personality, for some reason we always pick Patrick Wilson because he's such a good guy at it. Now, I know he's a good actor, I feel I have to say that after all that. But he's like William Atherton. If you want an asshole, you get William Atherton. You want a milquetoast guy, you go with Patrick Wilson, who is neutered in this movie. So, Chaz, who do you have playing the saddest, most pathetic superhero of the lot?
Well, so when he's not Night Owl, he's kind of like this quirky dude, and it kind of reminded me of Zodiac, of a reporter in that. So I kind of went with Jake Gyllenhaal because I think he would actually be a good chemistry fit with Emily Blunt, and they've both worked with Denis Villeneuve.
Absolutely, because he was in Zodiac, which we covered here in Matinee Heroes. But I think the Nightcrawler situation would be even more apropos because he was really crazy in that. But yeah, I think that was an inspired casting. When you brought it up, I was like, oh, I never even thought of Jake. But then as soon as I started to think about it, I'm like, that makes good sense. So let's go with Jen. Jen, we've got Jake. Who do you have?
So I went with some of the look. I also went with, there were some moments where it was supposed to be comedic, or they were trying to be comedic, but they didn't quite get there. So I went with a mid-'80s Chevy Chase.
Let's hope. Is this the picture that you were looking for?
You know, that or with the glasses on, either one. But that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, that's inspired casting too, because I didn't think of it until you said it, and then I looked up some pictures. I'm like, oh yeah, he could, because we know him for being Chevy Chase, and we're not. Love him in Fletch. Love him in Three Amigos.
Fletch was a strong one that I was thinking of with this role, that he's kind of goofy, and the girls like him, but he's not the Mr. All-American.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
He's the goofy, cute one.
Yeah, and I've never seen him do any serious, quote-unquote, serious parts, but I think Fletch is probably the closest because he did play it for laughs, but that was a pretty, it was like a borderline comedy drama kind of situation. Filmed in Utah. Do you know that, Chaz? Did you know that? Yeah. The Mountain View. The Mountain View Hotel in Ogden.
Are you old enough to know Fletch?
No.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Three Amigos I know, but Fletch I don't know.
Yep. Next time you go up to Ogden and you drive by the Mountain View Motel, that's where Fletch stayed. So, that's what I'm here for. Little tidbits. So we have Jake Gyllenhaal, Chevy Chase. I went with Eric Bana from The Incredible Hulk, where he's not the monster, because Eric Bana actually is a funny, kind of quiet guy, and when he plays the quiet parts, I thought he'd fit in there too. Well, we conferred, we talked about it, and despite the fact that Chevy Chase was inspired, we went with Jake Gyllenhaal. So Chaz, you have leapt to the lead, 3-2. Yeah. Now we get to the original Silk Spectre, played by Carla Gugino. I hope I said her name right. Jen, who do you have playing? I guess this is all in flashback. She's got to play in the 40s a woman who does not have a good life, despite being a superhero.
Well, she actually had to carry over because there are some scenes with Lori and Sally together.
That's right. A little makeup.
Yeah, so I picked someone that could look younger, look older, do the pinup, and I went with Betty Gilpin.
Betty Gilpin. I love her in Glow. She's fantastic. She plays a lot of women who are sick of people's crap. So what about Betty really drew? Because I didn't think of her at all, and I think she's great.
She was my second pick, and then became stronger. And I'll talk more after we hear what Chaz does, because I don't want to possibly risk who we might have done as my first. But she can do that pinup look. She can do the fight scenes, as you've seen with some of the Glow. And I think she's got the ability to act older, act the polished, the older, I was the one that all the men wanted, to an older woman that still carries herself well, being desired. I think she could run the age range with it and do the serious scenes, because there are the scenes that it's kind of not everybody's comfortable watching with her, and
it's very uncomfortable watching.
To how Lori became, but I think she's got the breadth to do that and do it justice and play it off as a survivor.
Well, she has come out of. She's a recent on the scene. She's only been around for a couple of years, but Betty's been really good in everything I've seen her in. So that's a really good pick. Chaz, what do you got going up against Betty?
Well, so Carla is a chameleon when it comes to playing like older roles. She did the same thing in Blind Manor, and so I kind of wanted to go off somebody based off her look. And the first person that came to mind was Elizabeth McGovern.
Absolutely.
So it's not so much acting; it's just who could fit like the older person role.
I think she can do both. I mean, you're not old enough, but
Nope.
I'm old enough to remember her in Ragtime and seeing her in the 80s as one of the it girls, like almost like a Jennifer Connelly or an Elizabeth Shue. And now we've seen her become this amazingly elegant and wonderful actress in Downton Abbey. I think she could do both, and especially since we're doing Throughout Space and Time, we can use her as a clone. We can use her actual older self and her younger self. That's good. So we got Betty Gilpin, Elizabeth McGovern. I went with Famke Janssen, who is the Phoenix in the X-Men movies. Our judges decided Chaz, who's got 4 in a row, but there is still 2 possible points on the board, and so you are still in it. You are still in it, Jen. If you can get it's got to get picked right, and you get what I get, it's very possible. All right. Now we move on to the comedian, played by one of my favorite actors, Jeffrey Dean. Jeffrey Dean Morgan. He's one of my favorites. I forgot his name all of a sudden. Jeffrey Dean Morgan's great. I always think of him, especially when I see him in a cigar. He would have been a great J.J. Jameson, but no one listens to me. So Chaz, who do you have playing the comedian?
I went with somebody who kind of has that sarcastic brute force to him in some of his movies, and I don't know. This was a tough one because I actually had a different actor as well, so I went with this one ultimately, and I chose Josh Brolin.
Josh Brolin is. I tried to find a picture with a mustache, and I couldn't find one where he didn't have just a mustache. It was full goatee. So Josh Brolin, yeah, he was Thanos, Cable. We all remember him from Goonies, and of course his mauled face in Jonah Hex. He's really good. But I think, Jen, this is your chance. Who do you have that can beat Josh Brolin?
So, I love me some Jeffrey Dean Morgan, but since the comedian is the comedian, I was okay recasting this and taking him out of it. He can sit on the couch and watch it with me. I went with one Bruce Campbell.
Ooh.
Now, I could find a picture with a mustache with him.
Oh,
yes.
That is perfect.
Yeah. He is known for his over-the-top characters, but we all know him from Ash from the Evil Dead movies and show. He was in Spider-Man, but every once in a while he'll show up in like the Hudsucker Proxy or the cult favorite Bubba Hotep.
And that's what I know him from. I know him from Bubba. That was my first. Yeah.
I have not seen him in that. I haven't watched that movie, but I remember seeing him as Briscoe County Jr. I loved him in the television show.
Oh yes.
So where it was just cowboys, but here we go. Chaz had James Brolin. Jen had Bruce Campbell. The judges decided that we liked Bruce Campbell in this situation. So now it's just a matter of who do I like? Now, I've met Bruce Campbell. He goes to Comic-Cons. I go to Comic-Cons. We interlock in a lot of different places. Our paths have crossed on multiple occasions. I have not, unlike Devin, I have not had a chance to actually moderate with him, but I've seen him at these places. But unfortunately, I went with J.K. Simmons because I thought he would kick ass in it. And that means, Chaz, you have won. Congratulations, you are today's winner. But it was a hard-fought win. So you get today's final thought.
Today's final thought. Oh my gosh. Yeah, this was fun. So I think Jen had a lot of solid choices. there was actually some that were on her list that kind of crossed my mind. So like J-Law for sure. So I thought that was fun.
Well, I appreciate it. You did a great job. You both did fantastic, especially for newbies. I know it's a lot more pressure on this series too, especially when both of you have had co-hosts who've been on. So now you have to worry about getting razzed, and neither one of you should. You both killed it. It's just, unfortunately, someone's got to win, or in this case, fortunately. But that moves us on to Game 5 next week. We have the lovely and talented Valerie Cameron, who scares a lot of our other contestants because she's really good at this game, versus someone you know, Jen, Rob Irvin, your co-host. They are going to have to do, it's the holiday season. Thanksgiving is in a couple days. So I thought Thanksgiving means family. And so we're going to do a family movie, but it's cast off. So we're going to do Dysfunctional Family, and we're going to do the Royal Tannenbaums, the amazing Gene Hackman, the amazing Angelica Houston, the amazing Owen brothers. This one's going to be difficult because the actors were written for these parts. They wrote for Gene Hackman. They wrote for Angelica Houston. So to replace them is not going to be easy, but you guys don't have to worry about it. That's Valerie and Rob's job next week. If you've liked what you've seen, you can go to Matinee Heroes on Twitter. We're at twitch.tv/Matinee Heroes, facebook.com/group/Matinee Heroes. And of course, you can subscribe to the podcast and to the video stream at matineeheroes.com/castoff. Guys, it's great having you on. We really appreciate it. But this show is now over.